Top of the morning to you. Coffee. It's needed. Noel's dad is here, so we are showing him around the city and did that for the past couple of days. Gonna go to Seattle today. He's been to the West Coast, never been to Tacoma. And he's impressed by the size of the city. He thought it was smaller than what it was and all of that. And Indianapolis is by far a much, much bigger city. But when you come to Tacoma, even though we're much, much smaller, it feels like we're a much, much bigger city than what we are. So I think he's going to experience more shock when he goes up to to Seattle. Seattle is just a little bit smaller city-wise in terms of population than Indianapolis, but metro-wise, it doesn't compare. We're much, much, much bigger here. So I think that once he sees that, it's going to be an interesting day. He's traveled the world a little bit, so he's used to big, big cities, international cities. But anyhow, this video is about this city of Tacoma, and we've been constantly ranking a lot of different metrics lately. Best city to visit, last minute getaways, best city to live, all of these different types of things. There was a few years ago when we were the city that really brought in a lot of millennials. It was the city that basically millennials moved to. I remember those articles a couple of years ago. Then it was Gen Z, the older Gen Z, because my kids are Gen Z also. Zeta's Gen Alpha. But Gen Z, this is the city for them. It was much more affordable, still is, than all the other cities around us. And you have all the big city amenities in a smaller city where you can navigate and go places. I will say this, Tacoma has always had its skeptics, right? There are some people who live here and I don't understand it. When I lived in a city that I didn't really care for, I didn't like the politics, or I didn't like certain things, or just kind of the culture, I moved. Because why live in a hell? If you don't like something, why live in a place that you don't like? Right? So you have a lot of people, and sometimes those were people from Seattle and other places, and they had their view until Seattle started facing problems, and you don't hear that as much. You still hear some people who will say that, but again, Tacoma is a city that's very, very, very diverse, and some people don't like that. It is certain people don't like the politics of here. So when you add those two things together, it is a no-go. It doesn't matter what the city does. It doesn't matter how many times it ranks in terms of great things. There are some with a public opinion that is just very much, and I've seen people who are old, and the mentality is of what my kids are. You see the things they type on social media. The city can never do anything right. And the reason why it goes through, again, to politics. So, a word to the wise, those who are thinking about moving here or who do live here, do not subscribe to certain Facebook channels. I'm not going to go through and mention them, but certain Facebook channels, all you're going to see is negative. Someone else brought that up, is all you see is negative, and the person that runs that channel responded back extremely nasty. But don't subscribe to those types of channels whatsoever. Not to say there's anything rosy all the time about Tacoma, because there are some issues, but when you can never say anything positive, you're just a toxic channel, in my opinion, and toxic individuals. And they probably also have a certain particular political affiliation, and they're really upset that Tacoma doesn't fit that. They're upset that Tacoma doesn't have the same demographics as a Bellevue or a Redmond. Right? But they love because it's affordable, and that's probably about as much as what they can possibly afford, which is completely okay. Because otherwise, there's other cities you can move to that would be a better fit, or other states. Idaho is not that far away, and there's a lot of great cities in Idaho, and it actually tends to be more of what a lot of these people would probably be in better alignment with. politically, culturally, all those types of things. So that's a little bit of a tidbit. If you cannot handle the kind of the West Coast type of vibe, and Tacoma is definitely it. It's very, very, very liberal. And it's very, very diverse. And part of our strengths and the reason why we keep ranking high is because we have a whole lot of different things that contribute to that. And it's the things that some people don't like, right? So I will say that. There are some people who were business owners who were talking negative, and I'm like, you own a business and you're talking so negative about the city. That's interesting. But there's been at least 5 articles so far this year, from travel.com to CNN. They've done 2 different articles about this. When I talk about Tacoma's population growth, it's important because if you think about CNN, I mean, it's one thing for people to 80 people underneath a Tacoma, City of Tacoma Facebook link to talk negative. It's another thing when millions of people are able to see the truth, which has been published by CNN. I mean, the city posted the truth, they just reposted the article. But all the negative is mostly just exaggeration, right? Or opinions. Typically, those are what you have. There's not a lot of facts to what they provide. And people are using old regurgitated stuff. And I think nowadays, in this day and age, we're tired of the same regurgitated things that have been said over and over and over and over again, nationally, locally, that is just used as scare tactics, right? Because it doesn't really impact people that do their research and they do a deep dive. And that's what we like to do on this channel. It's not sensational, right? It's not where we're talking negative, and it's not clickbait, and it's not all that. So this channel doesn't explode in growth and explode in views because we don't sit here and talk about, there's so many negative things here and I think you guys are going to enjoy this. Let's talk negative all day. It's just, that's not what decent people do, in my opinion. So getting onto the topic here, the one thing that was actually talked about was, basically it's saying some of the best towns on the West Coast. We have outranked a lot of different cities on this. Some people we outranked Oakland, California. They're like, Oakland, California? Because again, Oakland's one of those cities that people don't like. It's a West Coast city. It's very diverse. A lot of black people in Oakland. A lot of things that people want to harp on. But what they're not really thinking about or looking into it deeply is all the rebirth of things that are going on in Oakland, all the local synergy that's going on. You got all those problems, but when you're still able to rise above them, that is a big thing. Detroit's a good example. People like to trash Detroit, again, mostly black city, but you also see some of the things that they're doing locally that's really rebirthing Detroit, creating a whole different image. Same thing for Chicago. People like to trash Chicago, similar reasons. Typically, there's a racial undertone. And so typically take those conversations and comments, whether it's from people high up in the political sphere to the person that's typing away on their keyboard, take it with a very tiny, 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 tiny fine grain of salt, because typically it's bent on opinion and with a little dash of racism and judgment instead of facts, right? So this goes through and it talks about all these different things about Tacoma. One was a travel guide on things to do in Tacoma. Another one talks about Tacoma makes the list as best city to visit and to live. Another one talks about some of the best towns. And Tacoma benefits because of 2 things. One, it is a city, right? But it's also, to some people, it's small enough to be considered a big town. So if you're looking at what's a good town for me to move to that's got things going for it, it really does take that, because it's small enough in terms of population, but it offers a lot of big city amenities. Like, it points into some of these articles, and we're going to go into it a little bit, but it talks about America's Car Museum. So some of the things to do in Tacoma, right? And it's not that I'm getting paid by any of these people, but I may go through one day and actually visit some of these different locations, show you kind of what these are talking about, and do a little bit of a deeper dive for those who want to move to Tacoma, right? A lot of these articles, when you go through and you look at them, they talk about culture, which is one of our strong suits, and that's why people are against some of this stuff. It talks about things that boost our population because people are like, oh, that's where I want to live. People who are in the real estate industry, even though some of the rules have changed recently about their fees, it's big for them because then they can talk about some of these things. So you're seeing a lot of different metrics that Tacoma hits, and some of these are touching on tourism, which is a big, big thing. So they talk about America's Car Museum, which we call it locally the Silver Slug, and it's the world's largest private car collection with over 350 varieties of cars. Now, some people would never have known that Tacoma has one of the world's largest private car collection right here. You can have guided tours that can talk to you about the history of it, prices. I don't know if these are accurate exactly, but it's saying prices are about $18 for adults, $16 for seniors, $14 for those under the age of 18, and $10 for those under the age of 10, right? Point Defiance Park. Something people may not know is the second largest urban park in America. Number one is Central Park. Number two is Point Defiance. And it's an urban park that has an aquarium, actually two aquariums, a zoo, a marina, a boathouse, numerous hiking trails, and it has a living museum on it as well, right? It's 400, they have their 460-year-old Douglas fir trees. It talks about that. You can see a lot of different wildlife, from sea lions to eagles, red foxes, a lot of raccoons there, a lot of different things that you'll see in Point Defiance. And you're able to roam around and do whatever you got to do. And it is $20 if you're going to go into the zoo and things like that. Otherwise, park's free. You can pretty much roam around that thing, do what you want to do. Washington State History Museum. Another thing that's important here is that the Washington State History Museum is on the state's densest museum campus. There's no other city in the state that has more museums in such a dense area as Tacoma does, and one of the anchors to that is the Washington State History Museum. It's located downtown, and it offers permanent and rotational exhibits year-round. There's a coffee shop in there, gift shop, different things. Our kids love it. They like to go. There's one thing that shows about the pioneer days, and it shows the covered wagons. It shows basically the Puyallup tribe of Indians, which also had a structure in there that they actually built at one point in time. Not sure what's going on with that, if they relocated it or moved it out. Price is $14, but there are days, third Thursdays, where you can get in for free. Chihuly Bridge of Glass. What you may not know is Dale Chihuly is from Tacoma, right? And we have the Chihuly Bridge of Glass. It's about 500 feet long, linking the Museum of Glass to Pacific Avenue, so you can literally go from one side to the other, and you're able to see up above for free some of the different types of glass that we have, right? It doesn't do it justice, because when you go inside of the actual glass museum, you'll be able to see a whole lot more than just what's in that outdoor glass exhibit. But this is something that's amazing. They have basically the Seaform Pavilion and the Crystal Towers. They say are the best times to view them is during sunset. It's pretty cool. And you get a good view of the city as well. Skyline Trail Loop. It's a popular day hike with breathtaking views of Mount Rainier, waterfalls, meadows, and glaciers. It's about 30 miles outside Tacoma, but one of the great things about here is that if you want the city, you have the city. But if you want to get out of the city, there's places to go, and this is one of them. So Skyline Trail Loop is one of those that you can do. You're really right there on the mountain pretty much. Now, I'll tell you something else. Yesterday, we went to, Vashon Island. And it was interesting. I'd never been to Vashon Island before. No, I've only been a couple of times. If you're looking for a trendy, laid back beach town, even though there's not a lot of accessible beaches that I could see, but just kind of this laid back coastal village with a lot of artsy, collective-y type things to do and see, that is one place that you should definitely go to. We went to Camp Covos. Actually, Camp Covos was so good that people in Tacoma begged them to come to Tacoma, and they also have a location downtown as well in Tacoma. It's really good. The difference is there you get your pies. On Vashon Island here, you can get the pie or you can get these gigantic slices, and it is greasy, but it is very, very greasy. But it is very, 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 very good. Uh, Getting back to the Skyline Trail Loop, that is free, right? So that loop that you can do by the mountain is free. Tacoma Art Museum, another juggernaut, if you will, is TAM. And the Tacoma Art Museum has over 4,500 works of art and a dedicated glass art section. They have European artists like Pissarro and Degas, $18 for adults, $15 for seniors, and free for children. Let me tell you, this museum really does, I would say, some people say it's probably one of the better museums in terms of other cities, in terms of art museums. You're going to have to be the judge of that, but it's a really, really, really good museum, and they're really focused on community. Same with the Washington State History Museum. All of the museums here are really focused on community, and it helps build the arts culture here in Tacoma. Another free thing to do is the Tacoma Light Trail. The lady that started the Tacoma Light Trail moved away a little bit ago, but still this thing continues because someone else stepped in to keep it going. But basically it's a seasonal light trail that's basically around downtown Tacoma, and there's music, art, and poetry. You'll see it in all different windows downtown, all different areas, and you're able to go through this particular area. It takes about 2 hours to do, and again, it is on the frizzle. There's no charge. Back over to Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier Hike, it offers a range of options from short half-day hikes to multi-night adventures. Prices vary by hike, so whatever you choose, and by the season. So when you're going all at the good times, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Some people, hiking's not their thing, but they don't mind walking. Sorry, I'm getting a little nasally. Been battling this sinus thing for a little bit. They prefer walking, which is what I like to do. I'd rather walk or bicycle. And talking about Vashon Island, that's a great place to do that. But if you don't want to get on the ferry, which is pretty awesome, and go all the way across the water, you can do a lot of that here. And they talk about Ruston Way Waterfront. You can definitely walk that long distance, or you can bicycle it, jog it, whatever it is that you want to do. But it's a 2-mile stretch connecting Point Defiance to downtown Tacoma. So if you're looking for exercise, you can live downtown, you can bicycle, walk it, jog it all the way down to Point Ruston, take a break, go to some of the shops, relax, and then journey back that 2 miles. And that, of course, is free. Notice there's a common theme here. A lot of people think it's expensive to come here and visit and do a lot of things. But to be honest with you, it really is not. There's a lot of free things to do. Gig Harbor Gondola. It offers a romantic gondola ride experience inspired by Venice. Now, I will say this. Gig Harbor is a great little community right outside of Tacoma. Some would say it's a suburb. Others are like, no, we're not a suburb. Whatever. But it is a great way to actually experience other areas outside of Tacoma. You can go across the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Pretty awesome. And basically go there into Gig Harbor, and you're able to experience this. Now, the charge is about $45. Also, you're going to have to pay the toll to go over the bridge, right? So when you are coming into Tacoma, I believe, yes, when you're going, no charge. Coming back into Tacoma, you're going to have to pay, and I forget the charge, but I think it's like $3 or $4 for a regular vehicle to basically come back. Owens Beach. Okay, so again, Point Defiance is really something you have to experience, right? Because there are so many gardens within Point Defiance. So not only do you have the zoo, remember I said it's the second largest park in America outside of Central Park. So you have a lot of stuff that you can do. Not only can you catch the ferry to go to Vashon Island from there, but you have beaches and different things and all the stuff, the zoo, 2 aquariums, all of that. But also you have where you can go to this particular beach here. They've actually updated it, and it's ideal for picnics, sunbathers, and family outings. How much does it cost you? $0. It's free. So you can definitely go there, enjoy it, and really get a completely different perspective. It is what I call a pebble beach, so you're going to have rocks and different things like that. If you want to go to a beach that has sand, Dash Point is going to be probably where you need to go. There are some sand beaches here in Tacoma here and there, but really a lot of folks here will go over to Dash Point, which is not far away. Literally, Tacoma is here, Dash Point is kind of here and here, right? It's on the edge of Tacoma and Federal Way. Tacoma Nature Center is a 71-acre urban oasis with a 2-mile walking trail, playground, and interpretive center. Now, how much do we think this is going to be? The hours are daily, 10 to 2. $0. So for those who are visiting Tacoma, there's things you can do that cost money, right? No question. Like you can get on the seaplane, you can fly from here to, the islands up there. You could, do the scenic tour. You have to pay some money for that if you want to do it. Or if that's not within your budget, the museums are not within your budget, there's things that you can do that's kind of a mix, right? Where you're going to pay some money or it's free. What we like to do, because we have kids, is go to as many free things as we can, eat food, because the kids eat a lot, and then maybe find the thing that we really, really want to do, and then we do it. I typically tell folks who ask, like, if I'm visiting Tacoma from some other place, how long should I stay? I would say at least a week if you can. 3-4 days is great if you can do that, but a week is probably better because then you can plan and do a lot of different things. Base yourself here in Tacoma, visit all around. There's tons of stuff that you can do here. If you want to go up to Seattle, cool, but a lot of stuff is a lot more affordable down here. A lot of stuff is free, as I mentioned. You don't have to deal with much traffic. Parking's a lot cheaper down here. A lot of other things. Hotels are more affordable. It mentioned in another article, one of the places that you should stay is McMenamins. I agree. Why? Because McMenamins is an experience all on its own. It's a hotel, but it's also bars within it. It's also a music venue. It's got a lot of different things that you can do. So you can literally go to sleep in a very artsy room. It's mostly designed for couples, so not so much for families. But if you're coming here on a romantic getaway or for a honeymoon or something like that, and people are like, Tacoma and a honeymoon, well, hey, you got to do what you got to do. If you come here, then you can stay there and literally go to all the 5 different bars that are there. We love the Tiki Room and we love the Hideaway. It's a speakeasy and locals know how to get to it. For a while, it took us a time to figure out how to get to that. But it's really, really cool. They have a bottle shop in there, tons of stuff to do. And it is close to the Tacoma Link Light Rail, which will connect you to many different things around downtown, right? Wright Park. Now, Wright Park is a very shrunken down version of Central Park, in my opinion. Now, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles and all the cool stuff and it doesn't have that, right? But it is shaped just like Central Park, just on a very minor scale. And it even has a tiny little pond, right? But it is a tranquil parks, over 600 trees, winding paths and trails, and it has the Seymour Botanical Garden, right? So it has the Botanical Conservatory. I'm sorry. So you can go to Botanical Conservatory Garden, which is that little building that's kind of, you know, looks like a bird, right? You can go into that. I took the girls into it. They really enjoyed it, and it was great, right? It was great. The park is free. I don't know if the Botanical Garden is or not. Let me see. I would think there's a charge. We're going to see right now. Let's see if my hours are correct. The park hours is open from 7 to 9. The garden itself is open at 10 o'clock. Now, Wright Park is when I said it's a shrunken down version of Central Park, Central Park's massive. To give you an idea, Wright Park, which is right there in downtown, you can take the Tacoma link to it and everything else, is just 27 acres. So still big enough, but, not crazy expensive. And even though a lot of places would charge you to go into this botanical conservatory and all this other stuff, it's free. I just checked. This said it was free. I wanted to make sure. It is free. You don't have to pay to go into the conservatory. A lot of people don't know that. So again, when people make fun of and talk negative about Tacoma, these articles do their research and they go here and they research everything. And they realize, wow, instead of going up to Seattle, and it even says, hey, instead of going to Seattle 30 miles south, you can fly into the same airport. 30 miles to the south is a jewel that you shouldn't miss. Again, my father-in-law, big city, came here and said, wow, it was a completely different view. Much bigger than what he thought, a lot more things to do than he thought, and he really likes it. We're going to talk about the Museum of Glass. Museum of Glass is just insane. It's the downtown. You see the cone that's actually funneling up, a bunch of kilns inside. I know something about kilns. And you can go in there and basically see live glass blowing, demonstrations, different things like that. There's a little, when you sit inside of there, it's like this little kind of mini amphitheater where you can sit, watch them in the hot shop as they're just twirling glass and blowing the glass and doing the different things. You're able to see it right then and there. Price for adults is $18, $10 for children, free for children 6 and under. And I will add that not only far from there, you have the Children's Museum, which is not on this list, but something if you have kids, the Children's Museum in Tacoma is $0. You can pretty much offer a donation if you want, but there's nothing, there's no charge. And if you wanted to then walk all the way down to Dock Street, you can go over to our newly built Melanie Dressel Park, which is basically paying homage to Tacoma back in the day when people like to talk about the Tacoma aroma and the smokestacks. Well, it has this stack that was built. Kids can climb up in it and then literally go down this twisty slide and everything else. Basically, Metro Parks, which runs a lot of things here, from Wright Park to the to Point Defiance Park and the zoo. They also have a wildlife refuge, which we'll talk about in some other video. They actually built this park. It's really a good thing to see, and it costs nothing. So as you can see, so far on here, I have listed how many things for free? Quite a few, right? Got to pay for the car museum. Point Defiance is $0 unless you're actually going into the zoo. So that's $0. The History Museum and a lot of the museums, it depends. If it's the third Thursday, those are free. So Washington State History Museum, the Chile Bridge of Glass is free. You don't have to pay to walk through and see all that stuff, and there's a lot to see there. The Skyline Trail Loop, free. Tacoma Art Museum, again, third Thursdays, free. Tacoma Light Trail, free. Mount Rainier Hike, it depends. It varies in terms of prices. The Ruston Way Waterfront Walk, it's a good way to see seals. We saw so many seals yesterday. Maybe the occasional whale. You might see an orca or two. That's free. Owen Beach, free. It's in Point Defiance, by the way. Tacoma Nature Center, 71-acre urban oasis with a 2-mile walk and path, free. Wright Park and the Botanical Garden, free. Melanie Dressel Park, free. Right? Now, the best times to visit, people talk about rain here in Tacoma, but the best time to really visit Tacoma based on this is summer and spring. So spring and summer are going to be your best times. So from March to August, if you're here in March, you're going to experience the drizzle, right? You're going to see cloudy skies. You're going to have some drizzle, but it's not hardcore rain, and you don't need an umbrella. In fact, locals, we don't even own an umbrella. Whether you're here in Tacoma, Seattle, most people don't really own an umbrella, and you typically know when someone is a tourist because they have an umbrella or they're new to the area. We're just not that type. Now, you'll see us in some rain boots, but typically not an umbrella. It doesn't rain that hard to really warrant it, right? But you will still see people in hoodies. It's ideal for warmer weather and the outdoor activities that we do have. Fall is perfect for experiencing the vibrant fall foliage. I will say that probably going towards the later months, when you're looking at like now, which is August, I would say probably May, June, July, the warmer months of Tacoma gives you an idea of what to look forward to. It's bright. People will say, oh, it's shocking, there's sun and it's warm. Yes, it does happen from time to time where we get very, very good warm weather, especially during the summer. Some will say it's a little too hot. The angle that we are to the sun makes the sun a lot more piercing, so it may be 70 degrees out, but it feels a little bit warmer than that because of the angle of the sun and the humidity that we do have. It's not crazy. The humidity is not like the South or the Midwest, but it is something to notice, right? Winter offers unique seasonal events and indoor attractions. So when it gets colder or when the rain is not something you want to deal with, a lot of us just hunker down on the inside. There's a lot of different things to do, a lot of different events. There's so many different things that you can experience. Something else that's not on the list, but you can come and experience during the summer months, and it is also $0 unless you choose to spend, is the Tacoma Farmers Market. Happens every Thursday, right downtown on Broadway, which is our busiest pedestrian area in Tacoma, mostly due to the students at SOTA. But it was designed to be a pedestrian plaza. They never really quite turned it into that, but it's a very busy area, and the Tacoma Farmers Market is one of those things that you can't miss. Fresh cut flowers, the food, all different types of things to do, and that is free as well. Again, unless you choose to buy something, it is free. The final stuff, getting around Tacoma. It says that it's easy to actually get around, whether you're an art lover, history buff, outdoor enthusiast, simply looking to relax. It offers something to do. You can get around using bike trails, walking. Downtown is very walkable. If you really want to trudge up the hills and get some, cardio going, that's the place to do it. We also have the Tacoma Link Light Rail. It's no longer free, but it's not crazy expensive either. If you get a Orca card, which I don't have one on me right now, but it will allow you to go everywhere, right? So whether you're in King County, down here in Pierce County, in Tacoma, you're able to travel the buses, you're able to travel all the trains, do all those things because it uses the same exact system, right? So you buy one card, you're able to use it wherever you got to go. You can take it on the Sounder, the big commuter train takes you all the way up to Seattle, right? And bring you back. If you want to take the streetcars up there in Seattle, you're able to use the Orca card. If you want to take the light rail system up there in Seattle, you can use the Orca card. The buses, Orca card. Down here at Tacoma, if you want to take the Tacoma Link around downtown, you can use the Orca card. If you want to basically just use the buses and things like that, the Orca card. So you basically buy that and you're able to get around wherever you need to go. But downtown, the Tacoma Link Light Rail will take you from the Dome District all the way into the Brewery District, into downtown, takes you through the St. Helens neighborhood, which is a highly desirable area, and it takes you into Stadium District, another highly desirable area, touches just part of Midtown, it touches Wright Park, it then goes up into and also passes Hillside, and it goes up into Hilltop. We took my father-in-law into Hilltop as well to show him the vibrancy that's up there. Something to definitely see. So anyhow, for those that are trying to visit Tacoma, they're thinking about, this is something that could fit their needs. They want to go to a city that is a little bit more affordable. Maybe Seattle has got a lot of cool things, no question, but they're very expensive. I mean, no matter if you go to the aquarium up there, if you go to the zoo, they're two separate prices and they're expensive. Down here, if you go to our zoo, you have two aquariums that you can actually visit. One of the aquariums was featured in one of the other articles that I will talk about in some other later video. But we have two different aquariums and the zoo. You pay once, you get to see all of it, unlike what you will see up in Seattle. So anyhow, tell me what your thoughts are. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.